Some games are worth playing only once, but others? They demand a second look. Whether a hidden gem you didn't fully appreciate the first time, a masterpiece that's only gotten better with age, or post-launch updates that improve the original experience, I've harvested the sweetest member berries to bring you these 15 games that absolutely need to be revisited. I put links to any full reviews just below the like button, but for now, let's take a look at the titles waiting to be rediscovered. First up is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Originally released in 2015 by CD Projekt, The Witcher 3 is up there with the greatest games of all time, and it's worth experiencing more than once. It may not seem quite as replayable as Bethesda's RPGs, since you're not creating your own character or picking perks, and much of the enjoyment comes from the story, both in the main and side quests. But you should definitely revisit this vast open world, packed with Easter eggs, hidden caves, and unexplored mysteries. From lore-rich books to unmarked quests, you're guaranteed to find something new every time you explore. Geralt's morally complex adventures and cheeky interactions with characters like Yennefer, Triss, and Dandelion are just as captivating today as when it first launched. Plus, the Heart of Stone and Blood and Wine expansions are among the best DLCs ever created, and like full games on their own, with gripping stories, new characters, and breathtaking locations. I thought the game looked incredible 10 years ago, but with the current-gen update, Geralt's world has never looked better. The enhanced visuals bring the continent to life in stunning 4K, complete with ray tracing and improved textures that make every sunrise over Vilaine and every snowfall in Skellige feel more immersive than ever. And it's not just the visuals either. This update improves the gameplay, adds quality of life features, and even includes bonus content inspired by the Witcher Netflix series. The writing, the characters, and the world building are just as incredible today as they were at launch. And for newcomers, there's no better version to jump into. Whether you're returning for nostalgia or discovering it for the first time, you owe it to yourself to step into Geralt's boots and slay some monsters. Or some ladies. Moving on to No Man's Sky, which may just be the greatest redemption story in all of gaming. Developed and published by Hello Games in 2016, No Man's Sky has come a long way since its disastrous launch, evolving into one of the most rewarding and expansive games, full stop. Sean Murray's now infamous promises were numerous and largely unfulfilled when the game originally shipped.
Can you run into other people, other players on the game?
Yes, but the chances of that are incredibly rare, just because of the size of what we're building.
Many developers would bury their heads in the sand or kill the game entirely when faced with a tsunami of backlash. But not Hello Games. Over the years, they've rolled out over 20 major updates for free, adding tons of new content and mechanics. Most of the original promises are now fully realized, as well as many updates that were never promised. If you haven't explored No Man's Sky lately, you're missing out on a universe that's completely transformed. You can now build sprawling bases, pilot massive freighters, tame and ride alien creatures, and even customize your own fleet of ships. With its recent updates like Echoes and Interceptor, the game has added unique storylines, deeper NPC interactions, and new ways to explore and survive. There's even full VR support, making the experience more immersive than ever. Oh yeah, and there's now real, actual, honest-to-goodness multiplayer too, where you explore galaxies together, team up for massive construction projects, or embark on shared missions in a persistent player-populated universe. Whether you're looking for peaceful exploration, intense combat, or creative building, there's something for everyone. And if you were put off by the game's initial flaws, you should see just how far it's come. Alright, let's talk about Dragon's Crown, Vanillaware's stunning beat-em-up from 2013. Even after more than a decade, Dragon's Crown is still a real masterpiece of hand-drawn art, blending gorgeous visuals with fast-paced, addictive gameplay. Originally released for PS3 and Vita, a remastered version titled Dragon's Crown Pro brought the incredible title to the PS4, with updated visuals, a reorchestrated soundtrack, and cross-play functionality, making this the definitive version. It has the foundation of a classic beat-em-up, but it adds RPG mechanics, branching storylines, and endless loot to keep you hooked. With all of the classes, each with their own fighting styles, you can spend a lot of time honing each one. And let's not forget about co-op. You can play online, which is cool, but I'm a fan of any game with a great couch co-op experience. There's nothing better than taking down towering bosses and exploring beautifully crafted dungeons in the same room with your friends. And that art style is so awesome and totally vanillaware, inspired by classic fantasy RPGs and tabletop games. Revisiting it gives you the chance to truly appreciate George Kitamani's breathtaking illustrations, and how every character and setting feels like it's leapt off the page of a medieval fantasy book. And the replayability is practically endless. Between its branching paths, randomized dungeons, and optional harder difficulties like Infernal Mode, there's always a reason to come back. Whether you're chasing rare loot, maxing out your character builds, or just soaking in the game's nostalgia-drenched charm, Dragon's Crown remains one of the best modern beat-em-ups and totally worth a revisit. Moving on to Remedy Entertainment's mind-bending journey with Control. Remedy is just as known for immersive storytelling as innovative gameplay, with classics like Max Payne and Alan Wake, and Control is definitely among them. You play as Jessie, the new director of the Federal Bureau of Control, as she explores the oldest house searching for answers, gaining new abilities and fighting enemies like the Hiss, while you uncover more of the twisting supernatural mysteries is consistently thrilling. An updated release, called Control Ultimate Edition, takes full advantage of current-gen hardware, with ray tracing, 4K resolution, and smoother frame rates, making the oldest house's surreal architecture even more immersive. From the eerie lighting of the Bureau's halls to the explosive particle effects of the telekinetic combat, it's a visual masterpiece that's worth a second look. The Foundation and AWE expansions not only add hours of gameplay, but also expand on the lore of the FBC. AWE, in particular, bridges the gap between Control and Alan Wake, making it essential for fans of Remedy's interconnected universe. With all of Jessie's strange abilities, it's possible to replay with a different focus, changing up the gameplay in surprising ways. Whether it's maximizing your launch ability, mastering C's to control enemies, or experimenting with the shield ability, discovering new strategies is a huge part of the fun. Whether you missed out on the expansions, want to master Jessie's supernatural abilities, or simply need a refresher before Control 2, which is currently in development, revisiting Control offers an unforgettable experience unlike anything else.
Engine's been hit!
Get us out of here!
I'm losing control!
Okay, you knew this was coming. Let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. Its launch was the single worst thing that happened in 2020. This complete, worldwide disaster, which was the only one from 2020 that I'm aware of, nearly took the developer CD Projekt Red down with it. It almost completely eroded all of the goodwill they'd built over years of their gamer-focused business model. The technical issues were endless on current-gen hardware, but the game was completely unplayable on last-gen. However, similar to No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077 has had a dramatic redemption story, rising from the launch ashes into a polished, deeply engaging experience, thanks to years of updates and the massive Phantom Liberty expansion, which not only adds hours of new content, but also deepens the stakes in V's story, delivering some of the best writing and character development in the game. The 2.0 update alone overhauls almost every core system in the game, including redesigned skill trees, revamped cyberware mechanics, and a new police system that adds consequences to your actions in Night City. The combat feels tighter and more dynamic, with more ways to tailor your playstyle, whether you want to hack enemies, go full guns blazing, or become a melee-focused cybernetic badass. It's practically a new game. Beyond gameplay, it's never looked or performed better, which isn't saying much, but it's actually great. The neon-lit streets, bustling crowds, and atmospheric weather effects immerse you in one of the most richly detailed open worlds ever created. And the most recent update gives tons of character and vehicle customization options, which I'm all for. Whether you're exploring Phantom Liberty for the first time, diving into the revamped systems, or simply rediscovering Night City's beauty, Cyberpunk 2077 has evolved into the game it was always meant to be. And there's no better time to jack back in. Moving on to Days Gone. The story behind Days Gone is almost like a conspiracy theory in itself. Yes, launch was rough with some technical issues, but the onslaught of negative reviews, most so similar they could have been written by the same person, were relentless in trashing the game. And since then, Sony has all but buried the IP, but it's developed a passionate fanbase over the years, quietly becoming one of the most underrated open-world games. With post-launch updates and PS5 enhancements, Days Gone now runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames a second, with dynamic 4K resolution on PS5, making its sprawling Pacific Northwest setting feel even more alive, even when infested with the undead. New features were also added, like New Game Plus, survival difficulty modes, and weekly challenges that test your combat and writing skills. On top of all that, one of the biggest reasons to revisit Days Gone is its rich emotional story. At its core, this is a tale about love, loss, and redemption, following Deacon St. John's journey through a post-apocalyptic world filled with freakers isn't just about surviving. It's about finding hope when everything seems lost. If you rush through the story or skip some of the side content, you might have missed how nuanced Deacon's relationships with Sarah, Boozer, and the other characters truly are. Now, the gameplay has aged incredibly well and continues to be an absolute blast. The mix of stealth, action, and crafting feels even more rewarding now, especially when you take on the hordes. Facing hundreds of freakers at once is still one of the most intense, butt-clenching experiences in all of gaming. For trophy hunters, the Platinum Trophy isn't as daunting as you might think, and completing it feels incredibly rewarding. Days Gone is an awesome experience that has quietly matured into one of the most compelling open-world adventures. If you're curious, you should check out my video on what makes Days Gone such an underrated gem. Few games stand the test of time like Red Dead Redemption 2. Whether you've completed it or put it down before reaching the end, you owe it to yourself to revisit Rockstar's magnum opus, remaining one of the most richly detailed and immersive open-world experiences ever created. And with the power of modern consoles and updated PC hardware, the game looks and performs better than ever. But what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 worth revisiting is its immersive world and characters. Arthur Morgan's journey isn't just a story about outlaws. It's a deeply emotional tale of loyalty, redemption, and the slow death of a way of life. Giving it another look allows you to appreciate subtle story details, missed character interactions, and the heartbreaking foreshadowing you might not have noticed the first time. The deep well of systems means you can approach the gameplay differently each time you play, focusing on aspects you may have skipped before. And returning lets you uncover secrets, hidden encounters, and details that make the world feel alive. Red Dead Online has also grown significantly since launch, offering an entirely new way to enjoy the game. Whether you want to become a bounty hunter, trader, or collector, the multiplayer mode provides hours of exploration and adventure. And then there's the sheer beauty of the game. Hunting in the snow-covered mountains, fishing in the tranquil rivers, or riding through the plains during the sunset. These moments are what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 such a visual feast. If you missed the nuances of Arthur's story, or want to see how much more there is to discover in this stunning world, now's the time to saddle up. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that rewards patience, exploration, and multiple playthroughs, and it only gets better with age. Moving on to Divinity Original Sin 2. Larian's dense, emergent RPG gives you plenty of reasons to revisit its world bustling with lore, quests, and dialogue that you couldn't possibly see in a single playthrough. This game's a masterpiece of storytelling, tactical combat, and player choice, and revisiting it lets you uncover layers of depth you may have missed in your first playthrough. The game's replayability is really unmatched, with 6 unique origin characters, each with their own backstory, dialogue, and quests. You can experience an entirely different narrative depending on who you choose. The turn-based combat system also rewards experimentation. Each time you play, exploring new builds and party combinations completely transforms the gameplay. Whether you want to master elemental synergy, focus on a rogue-heavy team, or try out the modes and enhancements introduced in the Definitive Edition. But it's not just about the gameplay. This game is a storytelling triumph. The world of Rivellon is rich with lore, compelling characters, and moral dilemmas. The freedom of choice and consequence allows you to take different approaches to quests and decisions with vastly different outcomes. The Definitive Edition also includes improved voice acting, refined quest lines, and tons of quality of life features, making it the best version of the game to experience. The wizards at Larian have coupled all of this with the ability to play through the game in co-op, whether locally or online to share in the adventure. Whether you're returning to uncover hidden secrets, experimenting with new strategies, or simply basking in the stunning visuals and music again, Divinity Original Sin 2 is a game that stands the test of time and only gets better with each playthrough. Next up is Resident Evil 4. There's never a bad time to revisit RE4, a game that revolutionized not only the survival horror genre, but gaming as a whole, remaining one of the most influential titles in gaming history. Both the original and the remake are masterpieces that deserve your attention. The remake has reimagined the game for modern audiences while staying true to the spirit of the original. With updated visuals, a darker tone, and refined mechanics, the remake enhances the experience in pretty much every way. From the eerie atmosphere of the opening village, to the high-stakes action of the castle and island, everything looks and feels better than ever. The combat has been fine-tuned with improved aiming, parrying mechanics, and expanded stealth options, keeping encounters consistently fresh, even if you know the game by heart. But even if you revisit the original version, it's still worth your time. The over-the-shoulder camera and dynamic shooting mechanics, which set the modern standard, hold up incredibly well. The pacing, with intense action sequences, tense exploration, and resource management, remain unmatched. And who could forget iconic moments like the opening village fight, battling El Gigante, or Leon's encounters with the chainsaw-wielding Ganados. The story of Leon S. Kennedy's mission to rescue the president's daughter is both campy and a freaking blast, blending horror with moments of levity that are uniquely charming. Resident Evil games always have challenging and rewarding completion experiences, and RE4 is one of the best, granting new weapons and abilities that completely transform the gameplay for each playthrough. Whether you're nostalgic for the original or drawn to the updated remake, Resident Evil 4 is a must-play. It's a game that defined an era and continues to evolve, proving why it remains one of the greatest games of all time. Okay, we have to talk about Bloodborne. It's not just a game, it's a haunting experience that sticks with you long after the credits roll. If it's been a while since you've roamed the streets of Yharnam, you should plan to revisit this gothic masterpiece. First and foremost, Bloodborne's world is unlike any other. The twisted, decaying villages, the eerie forests, and the Lovecraftian horrors of the Nightmare Realms make for an unforgettable setting. From Software are masters of intricate environmental storytelling, packed with hidden paths, subtle connections in the lore, or the foreboding signs of the world's descent into madness. The combat was a revelation for the tiring Souls-like formula, making it fresh all over again. Its fast-paced, aggressive style rewards risk-taking over caution, which had almost become synonymous with Souls-likes up to that point. With so many secrets in the twisted world and countless builds, no two runs feel the same. A lot of people skipped the Chalice dungeons. These procedurally generated areas offer unique bosses, rare loot, and some of the game's toughest challenges, all while expanding the game's lore. If you're a trophy hunter, getting the platinum can be one of the most rewarding experiences in gaming. From discovering every weapon, to conquering the grueling Chalice dungeon bosses, completing the game 100% is a badge of honor that few games can match and few gamers have earned. And the community, even years after release, are among the most active and passionate players for co-op and PvP. Now, of course, we all want a sequel or at least a current-gen update for the original, but even without that, Bloodborne remains a timeless masterpiece, immersing you in its dark, poetic lore, masterful combat, and haunting beauty.
Weird. Where's the school? It said Shujin on the gate. What's going on here?
Moving on to a game changer for JRPGs with Persona 5. Living the double life as both a high schooler and a phantom thief, running around the streets of Tokyo and battling monsters in the style-soaked adventure that never gets old. And Persona 5 Royal takes an already fantastic game and makes it even better. Introducing new characters like the mysterious Kasumi Yoshizawa and the guidance counselor Takuto Maruki, adding an entirely new semester of content, complete with an additional palace, storylines, and an epic finale that satisfyingly ties everything together. Even if you played the original Persona 5, Royale feels like a brand new experience.
Royale with you.
And I have to gush about the game's stunning style and aesthetic. Whether the original or Royal, there's nothing else that feels as slick as Persona 5, with its bold, comic-inspired menus and jazzy soundtrack by Shoji Meguro. The game oozes personality in every frame. Spending time in Tokyo's vibrant districts like Shibuya and Akihabara, or hanging out with your friends in LeBlanc's Cafe is a cozy good time. And then there's the turn-based combat that remains some of the best in the genre, blending strategic depth with fast-paced action. Replaying the game gives you a chance to experiment with new personas, different party compositions, and creative ways to take down enemies. Plus, Royal introduces new mechanics and tweaks to the palaces that make battles even more dynamic. But the heart of Persona 5 lies in its social elements. Spending time with each character reveals more of their backstories and provides unique gameplay benefits, making your second playthrough feel fresh. Whether you're revisiting to experience its expanded story, diving deeper into its world, or simply reliving the thrill of being a phantom thief, Persona 5 remains a masterpiece that only gets better with age. Up next is Diablo 3. Saying the launch of Diablo 3 was messy is a massive understatement, with the always online requirement and the notorious auction house causing gamers to rebel against Blizzard's anti-consumer practices. It took some time, but Blizzard finally fixed the many glaring issues of this game, and finally allowed the title to stand on its own two legs as a great top-down action RPG. Diablo 3 has been around for over a decade, but it's a game that keeps on giving, and now it's the perfect time to revisit this classic. And yes, I'm well aware Diablo 4 exists. Whether you played it at launch or dabbled in its seasonal content, Diablo 3 remains one of the most addictive and rewarding experiences with plenty of reasons to return. It perfected the core formula of fast-paced combat, endless loot, and rewarding progression. Whether you're building a demon hunter with pinpoint precision or a barbarian who smashes everything in their path, the game allows for incredible build diversity. And with years of patches and balance updates, every class now feels more fun and versatile than ever. If you've never played the Reaper of Souls expansion, you're missing out on a dark, atmospheric Act 5, the introduction of the fan-favorite Crusader class, and the endlessly replayable Adventure Mode. Whether you're playing on PC, consoles, or even on the Nintendo Switch, the game runs like a dream with crisp visuals and seamless multiplayer. And speaking of multiplayer, Diablo 3 is still one of the best co-op experiences around. Playing with friends, whether locally or online, and you know I love my couch co-op, it makes slaying hordes of demons and chasing legendary loot even more fun. Diablo 3's ongoing seasons provide fresh ways to experience the game, offering unique themes, gameplay tweaks, and exclusive rewards, allowing you to start fresh with each new character, tackle season challenges, and earn limited-time cosmetics and items. Whether you're diving back in to relive the chaos or discover what you missed, Diablo 3 remains a timeless, endlessly replayable classic that deserves another round. The launch for many of the games on this list weren't great, but the launch for Final Fantasy XIV was so abysmal that many people thought it would kill the franchise entirely. No joke. Fans and critics considered it to be one of the worst video games ever made, forcing Square Enix to completely nuke the game's world and start over, later re-releasing Final Fantasy XIV under the moniker A Realm Reborn, which turns out was a masterstroke, slowly building up to become one of the greatest MMORPGs ever made. It's been impressive to watch this game continue to get better and better with each major patch and expansion, like Endwalker, that not only concludes the epic story arc that began in A Realm Reborn, but does so with emotional depth, unforgettable moments, and truly stunning new zones to explore. The narrative has reached new heights rarely seen in MMOs, blending heartfelt character development with massive stakes and awe-inspiring visuals. The game's also more welcoming than ever for new or returning players, improving the early game experience, making it easier to catch up on the story and dive into the latest content. The developers have also introduced systems like the duty support feature, allowing you to tackle dungeons with NPC allies instead of other players. A perfect option if you want to ease back into the game at your own pace. Revisiting the game lets you explore aspects you may have skipped, like diving into the rich lore of the side quests, collecting minions and mounts, or getting lost in the seasonal events like the Starlight Celebration. The social aspects are also a huge draw. It's more than an MMO, it's a community. Whether you're connecting with friends or finding a new free company to join, the world is alive with players who are eager to share adventures. And I can't stress enough how amazing this game looks, not just for an MMO. On modern hardware, Final Fantasy XIV is simply stunning, with smooth performance, and the team continues to refine its technical aspects. Whether you're here for the gripping story, engaging gameplay, or the welcoming community, Final Fantasy XIV is a game that constantly evolves, and it's never too late for another epic journey. Up next is Half-Life 2, a game that defined a generation and continues to stand out as one of the greatest achievements in gaming. Valve's iconic masterpiece originally launched over 20 years ago, but still holds up as a technical and narrative marvel. Its groundbreaking physics engine, which once redefined how we interact with video game worlds, feels just as impressive today. The gravity gun is a timeless innovation, allowing you to manipulate objects in ways that are both creative and fun. Replaying the game gives you a chance to fully appreciate how it seamlessly blends puzzle solving, combat, and exploration in a way that continues to feel fresh decades later. The story of Gordon Freeman's fight against the Combine remains just as compelling too. From the eerie desolation of City 17 to the horror-filled streets of Ravenholm, Half-Life 2 builds an atmosphere of tension and discovery that few games can rival. Revisiting it allows you to pick up on narrative details that you may have missed, like the subtle environmental storytelling or the deeper layers of the mysterious G-Man. Modern hardware makes Half-Life 2 even better, with tons of community mods to improve the lighting, textures, and smoothing out any bugs. You'd be forgiven for thinking this game feels newer than it is. There's now also a VR mode that lets you experience the game's environments and combat from an entirely new perspective. Walking through City 17 or using the gravity gun in virtual reality feels like playing the game for the first time. And with Valve's release of Half-Life Alyx, there's never been a better time to revisit the series and refresh your knowledge of its world and story. Half-Life 2 remains a masterclass in pacing, innovation, and immersive storytelling, and its legacy is just as powerful today as it was in 2004.
This is dangerous. Take my hand.
Last on the list is one of my favorite games from 2024 with Shift Up's Stellar Blade. This game has gone through quite the journey. Originally announced as Project Eve, a multi-platform title, it was later re-announced as Stellar Blade, a Sony exclusive. Then there was the ridiculous controversy and discourse surrounding Eve's appearance, like we should only have hideous characters in games or something. But when Stellar Blade released, many had to recognize what a high-quality title this is. A fascinating post-apocalyptic setting, beautiful environments, and tough-as-nails combat that rides the line between a Souls-like and a character action game, demanding precision, timing, and mastery of all systems. And then of course there's Eve herself, an objectively attractive character with a slew of different outfits, each one crafted to be more easy on the eyes than the last. Reviewers had to take note of the stellar package that was Stellar Blade. IGN relented and even gave the game their most coveted score with a 7 out of 10. If you played the game at launch, you had an incredibly polished and fun experience. But the team at Shift Up have been busy releasing tons of updates since then, drastically improving what was already a great time. And most of the updates are totally free. Here's just a taste of what's now available. A New Game Plus mode, which was missing in most of the original reviews. A wardrobe of new outfits, and I say you can never have too many. Updated physics, including things like how wind interacts with clothes and hair, custom map markers, and a whole slew of quality of life improvements, as well as PS5 Pro support for all 6 people who have a PS5 Pro. And now there's the highly anticipated crossover with Nier Automata. So the bromance between Kim Hyung-tae and Yoko Taro is only getting stronger. With how much of a good time Stellar Blade is, it'd be worth giving Eve another spin, even without all of these improvements. And there you have it, 15 of the best games you absolutely need to revisit. Good games are fun once, and great games age like fine wine, getting even better with time. What is your favorite game to revisit? If you liked the video, hit like, drop a comment, and of course subscribe. And if you want even more of my thoughts, check out my video right here. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.